Hey, ah, so I haven't had lunch yet. I see all of one of you in there. If you want to chat obscenities at me, I'm making toast. Can I do this way? Okay, please turn around. Okay. Oh, why? Oh, that's my finger. So I'm making toast. Pardon the mess on the counter right now, but I have this toaster, genuine antique 1924. So you have to, because it only does one side at a time. And that's toasted enough. So, and because you'll notice there is no on-off switch, this is your on-off. And I usually, when I'm having toast just to have it, I usually prefer to make my own butter. I have a little tabletop churn that I do that with. If anybody is interested, if you're my one viewer right now or you watch this later, I like to make my own butter because that way I can, like, put stuff in it that I like. But this is it's not the Pelugra stuff. I've got that now because it was on no, that was just on a regular sale. This is the Finnish stuff. I think they call it Finlandia butter. So this is my lunch, and yes, I know what time it is right now, but this is my lunchtime because I'm up around noon, lunch around 6. I got up earlier today. I don't know why. And so far until just now, I've been meetings. In meetings. Okay, thanks. You mean? Oh, okay. I know who you are. Okay, I didn't recognize your YouTube name. Okay. Yeah. So now we come over here. Okay, You're gonna see a bit of, because the Oh, that's all right. I've got a couple secret IDs in other spots. Ah, so oh right, pills. Where did my? Oh, there it is. I get some of that flavor additive for water just because I don't know. I've gotten a really deep habit of sodas for a few years, just because, like, actually I think it started when I was homeless, and buying bottled water just always felt like a scam. Um, so, to encourage myself to drink more water. I don't know if this is a thing in Europe, but they make this stuff like you squirt it. It's just like, flavoring. But yeah, you squirt it into your bottled water. It's to encourage me to drink more water. So I take my pills with. So I'm anemic. So it's really important for me to remember to eat, especially with the Adderall, where I've got like no real appetite on it, and what I do have, I feel full faster. So it's really important that I remember meals, even something as small as toast. So I know you tune in to watch me sew, and I'm eating toast instead, but I kind of misplaced some of my time earlier today. I got up earlier than I usually did, but usually I'm awake at noon, and that's around the time I have breakfast. But I was up at, I want to say, 9:30, quarter to 10 a.m. Had my breakfast around 11. So in theory, I should have had it around with my meals placed 6 hours apart. Thank you, Kat. I like to place my meals 6 hours apart, and so I should have had lunch about an hour ago, but I don't know. I got in the zone with some of my television that I was watching earlier today, and then I realized that there was like no time, but I also needed my pills, and sounds like a piano. Where's there a piano? I'm trying to figure out what you mean by that. Oh, the cat. No, she knocked something off the dining table in the kitchen. Nothing big. I'm pretty sure I know what it is. As long as she didn't knock over the butter dish again, because that's got a little glass cup inside the aluminum clamshell sort of thing. But and it already got knocked off once, and so that was a whole lot of butter gone to waste. And but it did crack, and I glued it back because that's a vintage 60s thing. But as long as that doesn't break again. Granted, like a big chunk, well, not big, but pretty sizable, about like maybe, I don't know, about half the size of this penny here, kind of broke off of that little inner dish. So I was just gonna mold something with polymer clay to fit in there, so that like little glass shards don't fall off into the butter. Yeah, she actually, I don't think it was Phoebe. I think it was Murnau. He's been knocking things over lately. He's something else. He's about 18 months old, and Nigel and Phoebe are both 6. So he's a lot more playful than they are, which, makes sense. But I want to say this last month, he has just been, especially this last 2, maybe 3 weeks, he's been just totally, like Phoebe is very visibly annoyed by him lately, and I don't understand what the hell's gotten up with them. But yeah, last night I did catch some cuddling on this chair of mine. So, she doesn't hate him. She's just annoyed by him. So that's good. I was starting to get afraid about that for a bit. So there's my purple jacket that everybody knows. And I don't have the back patch that I really want for this just yet, but you know, just gonna go over these holes in the back. When I got it, it already had the holes. You know, it was at this little, you know, kind of like hipster boutique called Ragstock in downtown Ann Arbor, and it's somewhere like the Ragstock is a place, I want to say it's kind of like a cross in concept between what's it called, a thrift shop and fast fashion. They've you know, they've got a couple what appear to be in-house labels, because I don't see these names anywhere else, honestly. And but they also make use of a lot of secondhand clothing. And one of their in-house labels was putting out these. I bought it in white, and but I got the dye to color it chartreuse, and it already had the holes in it. And I'm like, you know what? I really want. Well, when I did the purple one, I was like, you know, I really want a jacket, you know, with all the patches. And then I decided, you know, I want a second one because, well, I'm photosensitive. My skin. So, summer, I like summer, but it's really, really bad because, you know, the sun is out. I like the weather. I don't like the sunlight. And my skin really hates the sunlight. And then what happens is sunblock, especially like a good sunblock, that costs a lot of money. And in the long term, $30 jacket, well, you know, before patches and dye and all that, costs a lot less than sunscreen. Unfortunately, it's been very humid up around here. So my purple one, which is denim, which is, you know, like a much, you know, it's a much lighter weight and a lot less hot than my leather one. That just gets drenched in sweat. Like a couple weeks ago, I went to go see my therapist, and it was like the night before I had put my put my purple jacket through the dryer in the building on the what's it called, with one of those dry clean bags, or not bags. Well, I mean, there is a bag, but you know, I just put it in with like I do my jeans with the little home dry clean sheet kit things. I don't always use the bag unless I'm also putting stuff through the dryer itself. You know, save myself a little bit of money. But yeah, like I just put it through a dry clean cycle, like literally the night before, and I wasn't I wasn't waiting for the bus, you know, more than 5 minutes. And to make matters worse, the air conditioning in the bus was busted that day. And then what happened is, well, it's another like 15 minutes on the bus to her office. And so by the time I'd already gotten there, you know, this fresh, clean denim jacket was already like caked in sweat, and that was not fun. So I figure, you know, if I have two, I can alternate them, like either by the week or by the day, you know, or just whatever mood. If I'm in a mood for wearing more purple, if I'm in a mood for wearing, you know, this very bright pale green, the color of French liqueur made by monks, with all sorts of shiny things. I did do a mailbag video with the moon phase patch. This was made by, I threw it out. I threw out the envelope, but this was made by somebody in Germany, and I added the glitter. I added the glitter to it just because everything's better with glitter. And that does also give a little bit more weight to it. I'm not a fan of the thinner cotton patches. I like them like a nice heavy canvas because I'm just a little rough on clothes. And why are things tangled? Seriously, this is my day-to-day? How did that? There we go. Ah. I am. I love. Let's see. David. My favorite from the '70s glam rock era would be David Bowie, of course. Roxy Music, Bebop Deluxe, and of course Bill Nelson's solo. Though I've heard people say that his solo stuff is like very much Kraut influenced. But because he's not German, they just kind of lump it in with assorted art rock in Prague. The Who, I consider the Who like very influential on glam rock, especially their later '60s. Who's Best? Tommy. No, not Who's Best. Who's Best was a compilation. Who Are You? That's the one I'm thinking of with Bab O'Reilly and all that. I used to make an argument with people, and I still do sometimes on Reddit, that Specimen is not a gothic rock band. Like, if you're thinking about like what the hallmarks of the gothic rock genre is, Specimen does not fit that. Even though Ollie Wisdom ran the Batcave nightclub, and so they were one of the house bands. But they're not gothic rock. They are very much like, if you listen to, I haven't really given it more than the one listen, which I just did not like that album, that reunion album that they did some years ago, maybe 10 years ago, something like that. But yeah, their classic stuff from the early '80s. You listen to it, and it's very clear that that Specimen was a glam rock band, kind of playing with the whole like glam is dead, derisions from the UK music press. So, they decided, okay, well, what would it look like if a glam band were dead? And so they did that. So Specimen are very much a glam rock band. You can't really argue with that once it's pointed out to you like that. As for the '80s Los Angeles glam metal, there was a period in my life when I really did enjoy that, and I've got a few friends out in LA, some of whom I haven't talked to for years, not since I lived there, which I'm now suddenly feeling a little sad about. I should look them up maybe, but I'm not especially into that period of glam rock. I do hear a lot of '70s purists like, that's not glam. Yeah, it kind of is, though. It fits all the, they're a bit more influenced by the arena kind of stuff, like Gary Glitter and The Sweet and Slade. I love Slade. I really do. I love Slade. Oh God, who's that? Oh God, there's this band. I can't think of them right now, but they're a fairly recent one. But the singer sounds so much like Noddy Holder from Slade, and I was, oh shit, my ex was listening to them a few months ago. And I was asking him what the hell he was listening to, and he's like, "Oh, these guys." And they listen to a lot of Slade, because that singer sounds just like goddamn Noddy Holder. And And then he looks up Slade, by my recommendation, obviously, and he's like, "Oh, well, I guess I can kind of see what you're talking about." I'm like, dude, you just he's he's Isaac is kind of a mess and a half, and a friend of mine, he kind of conned her into being, her roommate, and I mean, living at my place, that was always intended to be temporary, but yeah, he's a mess and a half. I'll just put it that way. She's gotten wise to his shit already, and she hasn't even been living with him a full 2 months yet. She was wise to his shit like pretty much the week before they moved in, but she was already kind of obligated into the lease with him, and was like, yeah, I don't want to damage my credit by backing out on this. And our friend Elise and her couldn't afford the place, just the two of them, so but yeah, I do wish him the best. I wish he would get his act together, but he's gonna have to go through some shit before that happens. I'll just put it that way. And I'm not saying this because I want him to. I'm saying this because I've seen the kind of mess he's made of himself already, and it's sad but true. He's gonna have to go through more shit before he gets his act together and can actually be an adult. That's the downside of securing things with safety pins, is when you're hand sewing. You could probably do this if I technically have a working sewing machine, but it's old. It's not as old as I want it to be. It's vintage 60s. So it's all electric. I really want a manual one. Preferably just with the hand crank on the side, so without the foot treadle. Just because it would be easier to move around, whereas the one I've got, I like it, but I don't like using it. If that makes any kind of sense. And I don't mind hand stitching with smaller things like the patches. Son of a bitch. Oh, that's not good. I was not careful, and one of my needles dropped. Well, the needle I was using dropped. On the good side, I've got 5 more in here, but I gotta find that other one. Ideally before a cat does, and I'm not worried about Nigel or Phoebe. I'm worried about Morale because he has not yet outgrown trying to munch on things he should not. I still have to pull things away from him daily. This one's too big. And this one is still bigger than I'd like, but I'm not gonna dump out the darning kit to look for a needle when I've got a spare. I'm a bit disappointed, because, I don't know how my train of thought got to this, but, so I've got a cute neighbor boy in my building who works at Barnes & Noble, the, bookstore out, I want to say a good 15, 20 minutes on the bus from here. A little bit closer than my therapist, same bus route. But, things getting tangled in my shit. But yeah, he's up at Barnes & Noble, and he lives in my building. In fact, like, I mentioned this when I placed an in-store pickup order for something, and my address came up on my Barnes & Noble, member number card thing, and he commented that we're in the same building, and he's downstairs, and so he's downstairs from me and pretty much opposite side of the building. So same side of the building, same side of the hallway, opposite side of the building, and one floor down. So, but yeah, I'm so awkward, and I figured, okay, I need to go hang out with new people. and I know where he lives, so I just figured, you know, at the at the bookstore, I asked if he wanted to come over sometime with my friend Tabitha, um, and or my friend Willow, and Elise, or just whatever, and play some board games sometime. And he says he's he gets some social anxieties with new people. Okay, fair enough. That's fine. And then I did a weird thing maybe a week later and left a note on his door saying that, well, I've got an aloe plant. I've got an aloe vera plant, and it outgrows its pot so fast. And at the current time, it is in the largest pot I can spare for it before, I finally break down and go to the thrift shop and get some more pottery for my house plants and the ones that I put on the balcony during the summer. And and I just mentioned that my aloe has been sprouting off babies, and he is welcome to claim one. Feel free to text me. And he never texted me, so I think I shall assume I'm snubbed. And, we'll just, make pleasantries at the bookstore when I come in to pick up the next thing I want ordered in store. Which is disappointing. It's disappointing. I figured, okay, maybe I can get myself back out there after Isaac took off and, became a little dickhole. But no, that was not set for me. That was not something. At least not Ian, anyway. I really wanted to go out to, what's it called? Whatever passes for a goth night up around here on Monday. And I was really, mentally psyched up to go, but then my back kind of gave out on me. And so I'm feeling even more like I should just, deal with whatever nonsense is going on at this event in Detroit on Friday. That I planned to go to this event in Detroit. A friend of mine out from California. I thought she was more in the LA area, but message. Okay. Wait. Oh, I missed that other bit. Will this give it to me? Okay, that's... Oh, I'll see it. Yeah, Oh, glam rock. What was I saying? I was saying something. I don't know anymore. I don't know. Oh, right, the event. So yeah, a friend of mine, I thought she was in the LA area, but she's in Oakland, which is a bit more central, I'd say, than southern. Though not, it's not, I'd say it's a little bit south of San Francisco. I'm not terribly familiar with California geography, so okay, I know where my one person is. So yeah, if anybody who's watching this wants to correct me on this, feel free. But yeah, so she's more in the Oakland area, and she's coming out with another friend of hers. They're doing a little mini tour on the East Coast and Ontario, and they are going to be in Detroit on Friday, even though this isn't really a coast, unless, I don't know, well, there's all the lakes around. So like Michigan is like it's a peninsula, so it's like all coast, I guess. But no, it's not like the far east coast of the United States. But you know, it's close enough, I suppose. So yeah, they were originally supposed to be playing at this venue that is. So there's this place in Detroit called Trumbull. Oh dear, that's. Please don't knock shit over. So they were originally supposed to be playing at Trumbleplex, which is, it's a little, I don't know. I think this is a bit more of a common thing in parts of Europe, and I know it was definitely, there were definitely a few places like this in London in the 70s and early 80s that you know, basically evolved. I know in London they evolved from squats. It's Trumbleplex, and Trumbleplex is, they've got two late Victorian houses, and then there's a theater in between them. And so the theater kind of serves as a venue. Everybody who lives there, you know, it's basically a communal, you know, kind of thing. And everybody who lives there is some kind of artist. A lot of them, you know, are performers. A lot of them are performance artists of varying sorts. Some are visual, so like they'll do gallery nights on the regular. So yeah, like I was going to go to that, and is at least the theater part anyway is more or less handicapped accessible. And this is important because another friend of mine who lives a lot closer to Detroit, but I think she's still out in one of the suburbs, like Sterling Heights or something, which means nothing to anybody outside of Southeast Michigan, I know, but yeah, like a lot of people will say, oh, Sterling Heights, yeah, that's Detroit. And then there's a lot of people who are like, no, that's definitely the burbs. So, like if you are reliant on, like if you're handicapped like myself, like I walk with a cane, so I'm mostly okay with, you know, things that expect you to walk up a flight of stairs or something. I just tend to take stairs a little bit more slowly than most able-bodied people. And then there are some days I can take the stairs just fine, even without the cane, but that's all dependent on various crap and stuff. So yeah, first the event was going to be at Trumbleplex. It was going to be at Trumbleplex for like a month. For like most of the last month, it was scheduled for Trumbleplex. And I was really excited because I hadn't been to a show there in almost 20 years. And I've got a friend of a friend who lives there. And so I was even going to stay the night, but only if it was going to be the event there, because the person was just like, nah, I'm, you know, like, you know, if you're not going to be here, that's not, you know, for an event. I don't know. It's not my friend, so I was, cat, please. So yeah, it's not my friend. So I, of course, you know, would be really awkward. Oh, right there. So of course, don't want to ask now that the event has changed venues, and it changed venues because the people doing the local booking. So she's touring with another friend of hers who's also a musician and performance artist, and so so they're now working with like these booking agents up in Detroit who they just decide to change the venue. They literally changed the venue just this past Friday. So what was that? The 5th? The 6th maybe? No, wait. Yeah, it was the 5th. So they changed the venue like pretty much like last possible minute for me. Like 2 days after I buy my train fare to Detroit from Ann Arbor, Michigan. So, okay, map of Michigan. Map of Michigan. Okay, this will work for pointing things. So here's Detroit, approximately. Like that's so about here is Detroit. And here is Ann Arbor. So Ann Arbor is like, you know, coastal, sort of, and I live in Ypsilanti, which is like right here. So Ann Arbor, Ypsi, Detroit. So I basically have to, I don't drive. I do not see well enough to drive. So I am therefore reliant on either one of two things, or, well, I guess technically three, but I'm not taking, you know, the Greyhound bus up to Detroit, because that takes so much longer than it's supposed to, and the hours are a lot stupider than they are for the train. So I have two choices. Either A, I call up a friend to give me a ride, and of my local friends who have cars, half of like, and most of my local friends, so like say this is the entire population of my local friends, maybe 1 in 5 has a car that can be trusted. You know, I mean technically like maybe 2 in 5. Well, I don't know, closer to 1 in 5. Tabitha has a car, and she's very close to me, and she really wants to go, but her license is not legal at the, like, her driving license is suspended, I believe. Either that or it's brutally expired, so might as well be on suspension. Either way, I know that, you know, she is not legally allowed to drive her car at the moment. And it may be some time before she is. So yeah, of my friends who have a car that they can drive, and I do have more than 5, you know, friends in, you know, the Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti area, but, you know, just not that many with a car. So yeah, like about 1 in 5 of my local friends have a car that can be trusted. And yeah, I think John has a car too, but he's definitely on a suspended license if he does. I know that for a fact just because he talks about it on Facebook all the time. But then what happens? So yeah, like of my local friends who definitely have a car, I know Ambre's always busy, and I don't know, I just kind of get sick of asking her about stuff, even if it's something that I know she's going to want to do, or even something that I know she's already going to do. Like she goes to Renaissance Fair every year, like every weekend of Renaissance Fair she goes, and it's like a weekend only thing, I believe, unless they changed that recently. But yeah, like every weekend of Renaissance Fair, she goes. But I can never ask her to give me a lift to Renaissance Fair because that's like the last couple of years. Every time I asked, you know, like on a good weekend for me, which would be a weekend I have money, which I don't anymore. But every time I've asked her to go, like for the last 2 years, I didn't even ask her this year. I didn't even ask her this year because I knew it was going to be the same thing. Either A, the weekend I want to go, she's already got a full car, or B, the weekend I go, or the weekend she's good to take me, I'm not going to have any money. So, you know, so, you know, you just kind of get this discouragement with some of your friends. And so, yeah, she's one person that I definitely am discouraged toward asking for, you know, something like this, especially since I believe this is the last weekend of Renaissance Fair, too. So it's like, she's definitely going to be too busy for a nighttime event because she's going to be, she's going to be on her way back from Renaissance Fair at about the, you know, the prime time to, you know, go to a performance event. So, the new venue though, so yeah, or I can take a train as far as like my options. The reason I do not take Greyhound from Ann Arbor to Detroit is because, one, for some reason, it's about $10 more. It's about $10 more to take the bus rather than the train. But then again, I think that's because of what the train uses for fueling, versus I don't think Greyhound fleets have completely converted to, you know, like biodiesel or whatever. I think even still, it's like the price of biodiesel really isn't that much less than petrol. So I think that's it. But still, it seems bizarre that you're paying $10 more to spend almost an extra hour on the bus, and with far stupider hours. Like, only twice a day does it go, and yeah, there's like a third trip between Ann Arbor and Detroit for the train, but still, it's like, those are my two choices: either rely on a local friend who is probably not going to be reliable, or I take a train. So I took a train, and on the good side, the train is only a couple dollars more than what would be an absolutely fair price to ask a friend of mine to drive out of their way for something that they didn't previously plan on doing, in which case I would really want to offer at least $10 for gas money. Most of my local friends, they know how broke I am, so they will just like take whatever I feel fair is to offer. If they ask if I wanted to go, then I'll just be like, yeah, sure, I can put in $5. If I'm asking them to drive out of their way, I'll like offer 10. Granted, because I waited until I got paid, even though I technically could have afforded the money, it was an extra $7 because it went up another buck each way. Literally the next day when I was asking my friend Willow, she wanted to come with me so we could get a companion fare. But they took away the companion fare. I don't understand that. Like, it's not like half price for companions anymore. Which I don't understand. It's like, no, this is how you get people to go. But then again, I guess maybe they were losing money that way. But either way, it's still cheaper than the Greyhound. But, so yeah, what was I doing? Right. So, literally 2 days after I paid for my train fare, the venue got changed. And, first off, I wasn't even paying attention to, like, various, like, event kind of, stuff with this booking group. I'm just, like, paying attention to my friend on Instagram, and then, like, she messages me, saying, oh, hey, I wanted to make sure you RSVP'd since they changed the venue. And I'm like, they changed the venue? So it's no longer at Trumbullplex, which really disappoints me. Excuse me. Really disappoints me that's no longer at Trumbullplex, because that would have been 25-minute walk from the Amtrak station, which is the train in the U.S., and the interstate train. There are local city trains that go by other names, but so yeah, that was like like a 25-minute walk, which in this weather I could do that. I could do a 25-minute walk, like with my cane, but if necessary, I could have coughed up like even full price for bus fare. Oh, that's what I've been forgetting to do. I need to call the Detroit public city buses to find out, because they put it really oddly on their site. I can't tell if I need a special pass since I have the Medicare for disability. Like, it says Medicare card half price fare. So that would be 75 cents each way if I were to take the bus back from the new venue to the train station. It just says Medicare card, so I don't know if it's something like in Ann Arbor with the with our city bus here, where yes, if you have a Medicare or Medicaid card, you can apply for a half price fare, but you have to do it by going all the way to the headquarters and get a special pass for it, which I call my cripple pass. Because, well, okay, I'm technically on the free pass because of an ADA waiver signed by my doctor, but that's another story for another time. But yeah, like it's the cripple pass basically. So I don't know if like they want something like that, and I couldn't find any info about this. So I have to call tomorrow before I leave. have to call tomorrow before 5:30, very latest before I leave on Friday. Either way, I've got enough cash. It's just like, can I save $1.50? That's $1.50 I can use to do laundry with, right? But yeah, the new venue is in Highland Park, which is technically Detroit, but technically not. Detroit has a couple independent boroughs. Think like the Bronx, compared to New York City. Like the Bronx is an independent borough, but I think Manhattan and Brooklyn are boroughs that are under the mayoralship of New York City, whereas the Bronx is technically a borough within New York City, but it's technically self-governing. So Detroit has a couple of independent boroughs. So it's in Highland Park, which is technically an independent borough within the city of Detroit. Some people will say it's its own city inside Detroit. I'm like, if it's inside the city limits of another city, it's technically an independent borough, like they call it in New York. Just to cut down on confusion, because people from out of town don't understand how that works. Like they don't understand the local language for it. So when I'm online, it's, which I am often, it's an independently functioning borough. It's an independently governing borough within the city of Detroit. And I think Highland Park is only fairly recently an independently governing borough. Whereas Hamtramck, which is another independently governed borough within Detroit, they've been that way for, I want to say about at least 20 years now. So at first I was kind of scared because Lincoln Park is a completely separate city. And I forgot about the whole Highland Park thing, because that's a fairly recent thing that they became independently governing, though technically within Detroit, as an independently functioning borough that was, So yeah, like that's a fairly recent thing for Highland Park. So at first I was scared, thinking like, it was some kind of deal like Lincoln Park and Rochester Hills, Bloomfield Hills. Like there's a bunch of suburbs that some locals will just say, oh, I'm going to Detroit, but they're actually going to Lincoln Park or something. I don't think anybody as far as north as Rochester or Bloomfield will say, Detroit, just because that's way too far north. That's a good half hour north of Detroit proper. But I know people who will say like, oh, I'm going to Detroit, but they're actually going to Livonia, or like, oh, I'm going to be in Detroit, but they're actually going to like. Yeah, I've seen people in Taylor say it's Detroit. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not even like an independently functioning borough. It's comfortably in the suburbs, but just close enough. I can see locals getting away with it. But if you're talking to people from outside the area, it's like, don't confuse them any more than the locals are, because that's like, we don't need out-of-towners getting even more lost than they already will. But then what was I saying? Oh yeah, so the new venue is in Highland Park, and it is not handicapped accessible. And unfortunately, I was one of very few people not directly involved with this event to know that, because I pretty much had to ask. Like I said, this was pulled out from under everybody who was planning on this at what basically feels like the last minute. So like a week before, suddenly it's at a new venue. So, like they haven't even updated their Facebook page yet. Because like I said, it's not my friend, it's another friend of hers who's doing, like a lot of the big stuff for the... Please don't. She's knocking over bottles and he's knocking over bottles. I don't know why I get used to saying she, because it's not Phoebe who does this lately. But then what was going on? I gotta straighten that out. I have very little peripheral vision, and what does end up in my peripheral vision just kind of, I don't know, it makes me very nervous when suddenly there's something in my peripheral vision, especially when it's piercings. Now, I keep seeing these message redacted. I keep seeing these message redacted notices. but then was I? Oh, right, the event. So, yeah, I don't know why. Well, I mean, I know the, the reason my friend's been telling me, even though, like I said, it feels like such poor organizational skills, because there was this other, performance from somebody else in the local radical queer community. There's this, and their performance, they're calling it Obsidian, and I don't know if that's their band or their performance name or just what they're calling their performance. So yeah, like to put it on the same bill as this Obsidian performance, they basically moved venues, and I don't know why, because for the last month everybody was expecting them at Trumbleplex, and my friend, she's getting fairly well known in the with underground pop music and underground gothic music. She was a featured performer on the Bandcamp Daily. I want to say earlier no, not this year, earlier last year, because that's how I found out about her, and that's how I got talking to Isaac, was I was recommending her music. So so early last year, she was a featured performer on the Bandcamp Daily blog. So yeah, like you've got people, who are really, hoping to, see this, and suddenly, like, they didn't even publicize the address, but, like, I took it upon myself to, go and, like, talk to these booking people, like, no, you can't pull this secret venue shit on us, with only a week to go, and say, venue announced, on day, to be announced day of. You can't do that, because this has been something that, especially with, now my friend on the bill, this is something that a lot of people have been, hoping to see for, the last month. The tour was announced in July. The venue was secured for Trumbleplex a month ago, and then last week it suddenly changed to this Neuhaus booking, and they decided to pull this shit that I didn't even think it was cute in the 90s, when there was kind of a fad for, this secret venue for this performance. I'm like, this wasn't even cute in the 90s when I was in high school and living part-time in the UK with my sister, and, more able to do this kind of thing. Because, my eldest sister and my brother-in-law, like, we went and, like, I basically went out clubbing with them, like, underage. Yes, they got me, a false identification just to go out clubbing, because, sure, why the hell not, at the very least, at 14, I could pass for, 18 to 20-ish, and, culturally, people care less about underage drinking in the UK and Europe than they do in the States. And I think it's less of a deal, too, if you're caught. Whereas in the States, like, we're looking at a $5,000 fine, which it sounds obnoxious, considering that, especially in Michigan, where I know there's a fine, because, like, it is fairly common for, 19-year-olds, to, have, like, one friend, like, on their 19th birthday, they get it, especially in Michigan, like Detroit's up here on the map, and just over that border is a bridge to Canada. So like it's like kind of a rite of passage for a lot of, especially some of the more affluent areas of Southeast Michigan, where like on your 19th birthday, you take the bridge up into Canada and you go drinking, where the legal drinking age is 19. So, they try to, they've tried to think of ways to, catch these kids at the border coming back from Canada after going out drinking underage. But it's like, short of like making some of the worst laws imaginable, there's not really anything you can do about it. So, the fact that, being caught with alcohol when you're under the age of 21 in Michigan even is like automatically $5,000. Like you could have been drinking. It's just like, they have to catch you with the bottle. So you can drink all you want in Canada, and as long as there's a designated driver, taking you back over the border, like you can, like hit whatever on the breathalyzer tests. But as long as you're not driving, there's not really anything they can do about it. But yeah, so like, I know there was a fad, especially with the cyber rave scene, which my brother-in-law, he was not the biggest fan of, but like sometimes my sister would go because she was road crew for musicians, and she was road crew for musicians, like usually like contract kind of hire stuff. She loved working package tours on the continent. Not so much package tours, package festivals, like 12 bands a day, for like 3 days straight. She would work a lot of those on the festival. I can't remember if she ever worked. Oh, I can't remember if she ever worked WGT. I think she worked a couple, fairly larger ones though, for punk and heavy metal music, because that's what she's really into. But we ended up going to a couple of these little, like secret raves in wherever, and like I understand that kind of thing, but it's still not cute, to like, especially if you're going to be promoting it. If you're going to be promoting this like thing at the secret venue and you find out at this day and time, like if it's going to be like an underground thing where like where like it's an abandoned building and you don't have the permits to perform there, that I can understand. It's still not cute. It's still not funny. It's still not it's still not a good thing to do to people. But there's a reasoning behind this. In this case, like they made an arrangement with a church, so like it's not an abandoned building or anything. It is like a legitimate, like we've got the book, we've got the paperwork, we've got the the handshakes have been made, the stuff, the contracts, whatever, have been signed. This is totally legal. They're just not announcing the venue until like earlier today. They suddenly announced the venue, like which is not day of like they initially promised. But I guess like me pointing out that disabled people have to plan around this. Even if it's just some jackass like me with a cane. But here's the kicker is, like me pointing out this thing about the disabled, the disability stuff. So, my friend, she really wanted whatever venue to, to be ADA accessible, which, so basically like wheelchair accessible. Wheelchair accessible, people who aren't going to get on your ass about, like service dogs or anything like that. So she wanted it to be ADA accessible. Technically, they have to, like, if it's an actual service animal who is trained to do things. Granted, there are only so many kinds of questions you can ask, but like people want to say, oh, this is no, this is a service animal. This is my emotional support. This is my emotional support weasel. Yeah, for like their ferret or something. I don't know. Weasel just came out. They're closely enough related. But no, an emotional support animal, at least as per U.S. Coding, is not a service animal. It is its own classification. It's basically like a middle ground between a pet and a service animal. What an emotional support animal is either like, you get a note from your from your mental health professional, or some of these, like vaguely sketchy, certificate mills, that says, for your own mental well-being, this pet helps you, and a lot of people like to exploit the ignorance about that, that it is two different things. Like a service animal, like a proper service animal, as it is defined by the U.S. Americans with Disabilities Act, a service animal has been trained to perform certain tasks, whether it means this dog has been trained to alert for seizures, or I've seen people with miniature horses, you know, who are allergic to dogs, so they get a seeing eye horse, you know, to like cross the street when they have, you know, when they're legally blind or totally blind. Blindness is a spectrum of physical handicap. I am kind of on the borderline of low vision. So like even with this prescription, I've got about 20/60 vision. I want to say, yeah, this is my good eye. This is 20/40 with this prescription. And this one's about 20/80, 20/90, depending. I swear some days this one's a little bit better than 20/80, but, you know, just for the sake of safety, 20/80. So combined, that's about 20/60 acuity. So what a person with 20/20 vision, so their degree of acuity at 20 feet is, so okay, the 20/80, so like the 20/60. So what a person with 20/20 vision, so their acuity at 20 feet is, you know, that 20 represents 20 feet. But my acuity at 20 feet is going to be similar to a person with 20/20 is going to be like their acuity at 60 or 80 feet. So, I mean, I might be able to just barely pass a vision test for a driving license, but basically, I don't feel safe with that. I'm like, you know, there is an unspoken social contract that says, if I don't feel safe enough to drive, then I shouldn't. So, you know, I won't. And, you know, it's like, you know, I'm already 37 years old. My vision is not going to get better with age. In about 10 years, I can see it start, you know, I can expect it to start getting worse. And plus, like, not only do I have very poor vision, I'm kind of on the borderline of low vision. Now, when I say borderline for low vision, borderline low vision, they want you 20/80 in your good eye with the best possible prescription and legally blind in your bad eye. So, and like I say, I'm in this borderline kind of area for low vision. And I also don't really have any practical amount of peripheral vision. It's like where most people will have a peripheral vision. Yeah, I want to say about there. Like for me, it starts right about. It's like most people can see a little bit of something about, you know, about here from their face. With me, it starts here. Like, oh, by the way, it is very pleasant to. Oh, thanks, no problem. So yeah, I can't drive. Oh right. Talking about my vision, I was previously mentioning my friend. So yeah, she was really hoping that, you know, whatever venue this was going to be booked at was going to be handicap accessible, like not just about you know, seeing eye animals, but you know, but wheelchairs. And there's a friend of mine who is wheelchair bound. I can't remember if she's paraplegic or if it's a case where you know, fibromyalgia or arthritis or something is just so bad that, like, outside the house she is, for all practical purposes, wheelchair bound. I know when she and I met up at Convergence, which I don't know how familiar the German golf scene is with it. It's the closest thing the U.S. has. I have a little mini review of this year's that was in Detroit. I have a little mini review on my YouTube, but basically, like, Convergence is all that American golfs really have, as far as, like, you know, like Europe is where you go for the big festivals. In the U.S., we've got Convergence, which is, it's more convention style than festival style, and the reason for that is just, well, it began with Usenet and the Alt-Gothic forum on Usenet. So alt.gothic, it was an old news group in the 90s. And I think it was just like a matter of practicality that it was cheaper to, like book a club for the concerts at night, and like book a like a hotel multi-purpose room for what for like vending and stuff during the day. I think it was just a matter of practicality when Convergence first started. I want to say, so let's see, this year was 24, so the first Convergence was 1992, maybe 93. The internet will tell you. Where was I going? Oh yeah, the event. So yeah, my friend who is wheelchair bound, when she and I met up at Convergence, she was pretty much in her chair the whole time. I imagine there was some time she was out of her chair in her room with her husband. But yeah, like out at the club that we went to for the concerts, she was in her chair. Up in the vendor room, she was in her chair. She went out to the tea party with a bunch of other people. She was in her wheelchair. So yeah, like definitely outside her home, she is in her chair full time. And when we were using the something spooked Nigel. He just popped about 3 feet up off the ground. Not that high, but so yeah, like when I was in the little courtesy van with her from the hotel to the nightclub for the concerts, she her husband had to help her in and out of her chair and fold it up for her and get it in the back seat. So I can't remember if it's something like paraplegia, where she's like paralyzed from the waist down, or if it's something like rheumatoid arthritis, where like my stepmother's got that, and she's been let's see, she was not chair bound most of the time she and my father were married before he died, but I know she had been wheelchair bound off and on when she was in elementary and high school, just from rheumatoid arthritis alone. I do believe she's been wheelchair bound most of this last 10 years. I very seldom talk to her, but the last time I did, she mentioned something about having to replace her chair all of a sudden. So, but yeah, I know her mother also had rheumatoid arthritis, and she could get up and around, like a few feet from her chair to, like do things up at the kitchen counter. She could like stand for short periods, but then she'd have to sit back down in her chair for a little bit after like cooking. Like she'd have to spend like the rest of the day in her chair just after standing up to cook or something. But yeah, I don't remember what Maureen's handicap is, but I do know outside the house she's chair bound. So she can't go now, and she was really excited about this because she really loves Sephir's music, and and of course, like I don't know why I listened to these people when they said don't publicize the like don't even like tell your friends like where the venue is until we've posted it. I'm like, okay, because I don't know why I listened to them, because like suddenly she finds out today that it's not even going to be at Trumbleplex, where like I said, it's between two Victorian houses, like this little theater, but I know she's been to events there before. I haven't been in about 20 years. I can't remember if they had a ramp then, but at the very least, she knows people who can put up a ramp for her. Yeah, because she's a bit more local to there than I am, so I think she's there more often than I am. I think she's out in Sterling Heights technically, but which is a suburb. I think it's a little bit west of Detroit proper, but so yeah, like the current venue, and like for the last 2 days since I found out, like Friday, I was like really bummed. I was like so close to trying to get my money back from Amtrak, you know, and just not go. But at the same time, I haven't seen any concerts since April when we did Convergence in Detroit this year. That's another thing about Convergence is unlike other conventions, like, you know, like Comic-Con, well, I mean, there's like various local Comic-Cons. So like the Detroit Comic-Con, it's in Detroit every year. Let's see, Dragon Con, that's the big gaming convention. I think it started with RPGs and board games and stuff, but then they've like branched out and they do a whole lot of cosplaying and video game enthusiasts too. Dragon Con is in Atlanta, Georgia every year. Okay, that was a quick little hiccup we had there. PantheaCon, which is the big pagan convention, that's out in, I know they say the Bay Area. I don't remember if it's in San Francisco proper or if it's more like San Jose or something, but basically that's out in the San Francisco area every year. Convergence is not like that. It's a mobile convention, meaning every year there is a committee and we vote usually in June or July where and exactly what date. Usually it's April or May. But you know, we vote on exactly where and when Convergence is going to be the next year. So it's like every July you vote, and then the following April or May. I think one year it was in September of the year, but I can't remember why. And so yeah, so it like changes cities every year, which is really nice because, you know, if you go do the festival circuit in Europe, like one person can easily see like 4 or 5 different cities in a summer for the music festivals out there. Like, you know, there's Mariluna, I think, I can't remember where in Germany it is. I know WGT is in Leipzig. I've probably pronounced that badly. Whitby Gothic Weekend is in Whitby. I think of them every year. That's obviously in Whitby in England and the UK. I think there's a French one. I can't remember the name of it, though, if there is. But I'm pretty sure there's a French one. Don't ask me. Ask people who know better. So yeah, like you can, like even if you're just going to the goth ones, like you can easily see like, you know, 3 different cities, you know, every year and go, you know, see what the locals do, you know, like during, you know, like if there's a couple bands you don't want to see and you find, okay, I've got a good hour here, you know, let's go off to this coffee shop that the locals have recommended to me. You know, like you can do that every year, and you can go back to those coffee shops and everything, and, you know, or that, you know, restaurant that you really love. In the States, it's such a big country that's arranged so stupidly, but so like every state is basically like the size of a European country, and more or less, some are bigger, some are much smaller. So yeah, like that's a big reason that Convergence moves around every year. Like the only cities it's been in twice have been New Orleans, and it's had 3 years in Chicago, and that's because the first one was in Chicago, so the 10th anniversary was Chicago, the 20th anniversary was Chicago, and so let's see, Convergence 9 was in Las Vegas. I think it was number 14 that was, I don't know, it was after Katrina that the first one was in New Orleans, and then like a few years later, there was another one in New Orleans. But yeah, like New Orleans has had 2 Convergences, Chicago's had 3, but yeah, this whole thing with the secret venue, it's like, I remember the 90s. I remember why underground raves were doing that secret venue. It still wasn't something that I was entertained by in the 90s when I was in high school and not walking with a cane and young enough that I should have thought it was cool. But I remember like after like the second or third one that I did, you know, after like the second or third little underground, you know, performance, at some abandoned building that, we weren't supposed to be at because we didn't have permits and all that. The second or third one, I was just like, this is really stupid. Like, I understand the reason is, you don't have the permits. But this time, they have the permits. Everything is in order. There's no reason to do all of this, sneaking around, with this secret venue until, like, day before or whatever, today is, 2 days before. Like, they'd already had this performance lined up, They'd already had this performance lined up, for this venue, like talking to the people with the booking, with the booking group. It sounds like this was all planned, this Obsidian thing that Sephir's doing her music, with the performance on. And she's oh God. And that's what pisses me off is like, this is like they're doing it by the book. This is such a by the book event. Like, they've made the arrangement with this church to, like perform in their basement or whatever. So the arrangements were made well ahead of time. They could have at least announced the name of the venue. Well, when I knew about it, which was about a week ago. This secret venue stuff, it's not cute. The reason that it happened in the 90s, and it still wasn't even cute then, is because people were doing this in, places without permits, like, secret, like I remember going to a concert, just like this sort of little pop-up concert in a cemetery, and it was a little out of the way place. I want to say Wales? I want to say Wales because my brother-in-law, he speaks about a good 12 languages. Granted, like a couple of these are he speaks 3 different dialects of Chinese. You could argue that Italian and or that, like, Italian, Spanish, and Portuguese are Latin dialects because they're all very close. You can easily figure out, what's different between them. I had a friend a few years ago who grew up in Mexico City, and he watches Brazilian stuff, which is in Portuguese, but he doesn't speak Portuguese, but he he doesn't speak it well enough to feel comfortable carrying his own in a conversation with a Brazilian who, speaks like Portuguese like near exclusively and not Spanish dialect, but he understands enough that he's like, well, it's just the same language. It's just like there's some differences here and there. I'm like, I can see that, like I guess there's like some nuance in Portuguese that versus Spanish. So like he speaks Italian, Portuguese, Spanish, English, 3 dialects of Chinese because he is Chinese, Korean, Chinese, Italian, Portuguese, Spanish, English, German, Korean. No, not Korean, Japanese. When I say German, he speaks Welsh. Maybe a little bit more than 11 if you count that he basically speaks 3 different dialects of Chinese and 3 different dialects of Latin. But yeah, he speaks Welsh. I remember that weekend he was showing off like how much Welsh he knows, and being Chinese, like we go to this we went to this little coffee house kind of diner. Oh no, it was a tea house. God, I'm calling it a tea house. I don't remember if it's called tea house in the UK anymore. But it was basically like that, like the little castle sketches on Little Britain, where the guy plays the flute. Yes, those. It was one of those little tea house kind of things, and he was showing off like how much Welsh he speaks because he loves doing that every time he's in Wales, because he speaks it very well, and nobody expects this little Chinese guy to speak this fairly conversationally fluent Welsh. So he's placing these orders in Welsh, and everybody in Wales speaks some degree of Welsh fluently. Like almost everybody in Welsh is, who was born and raised there, is bilingual English and Welsh, which is one thing that really kind of like I got into it with people on back when LiveJournal was still being used outside Russia. What was I doing? Oh yeah, I was talking to somebody in like some kind of I think it was a pagan group, and this one woman was offering Celtic language lessons, and the fact that she didn't even know this made me like really doubt her ability to teach it, because she was saying that she gives lessons in Irish, Breton, Welsh, and Scots Gaelic, and she described Welsh as a very rare language. But when you look at the comparative populations of Wales versus Ireland, like nearly everybody born and raised in Wales speaks Welsh to some degree of fluency. They're basically bilingual in both English and Welsh if you're born and raised there. Whereas in Ireland, it's more like 1 in 5 people are comfortably fluent in Irish. So so like when we're looking at native speakers, like people who don't pick it up as a second language later in life, like I'm learning now with Irish, like Welsh is not a rare language. There are a third as many native speakers of Irish as there are of Welsh, and that is one thing that I absolutely cannot stand about the American pagan community is these people who think they know more than they do, and yet you run into so many people who know even less than them that they buy it. And of course, I think I got kicked out of that group, or at least that thread got closed, and she deleted it or something, because I was calling her out saying like, how well do you actually speak any of these languages if you don't even know that there are 2 or 3 times. Yeah, that would be 3 times. Yeah, because 1 time would be once. And so yeah, like about I know it's 1 in 5 Irish people speak Welsh, or 1 in 5 Irish people speak Irish bilingually, and it was like almost the entire native population of Wales speaks Welsh bilingually with English. So I was pointing out to her, like, Welsh is not a rare language at all. I'm pulling up stats from, pretty much everywhere. Like, no, like, almost the entire population of Wales speaks Welsh as, as a dual native speaker with English, whereas, 1 in 5 Irish people speak Irish to, as a bilingual native, and slightly more speak it as as a second language that they learned later in life. And she was getting pissy. I remember she was getting really pissy. But after that, I can't remember if. Actually, no, I don't think I was kicked out of that group. I think she just she just deleted the post and, thereby closed the thread and tried to take her nonsense to other people who would, fall for it. Because, like I said, if you don't even know that much about the Welsh language, I don't trust you to teach it. And speaking of learning Irish, yes, I do know about Duolingo. I finished the Irish 1 course on Memrise, and frankly, I don't like that as much as Duolingo. It's just vocabulary on Memrise. I mean, I do like the setup that they have for it a little bit better than Duolingo. So like, I like the format of the app better than I like the lessons offered on the app. At least the Irish level 1 lessons on the Memrise app. Like I said, it was just like all vocabulary. You've got like very few sentences, whereas with Duolingo, you're getting sentences. So you don't get any in-depth phonics, like they call it phonics, at least when I was going to school. When we're so like language arts grades 1 through 3 at my old Catholic school. We didn't really have much in the way of language arts in in kindergarten, other than learn your alphabet, learn the basics of reading and writing, and then you got to the phonics learning in first through third, maybe fourth grade, and then it was just a little bit more all-encompassing. And the phonics class, that's where you learn the various rules of English and how the English language works. Like how sentences are formed. And I got to tell you a lot, because I went to both private school with, run by Felician nuns. So it was a Catholic school. So it was technically a private school. And then I went to a public school, which in the U.S., that's the I know I've got a lot of viewers. I don't know who's going to watch this later, because we're already like coming on an hour and a half, it looks like. But so I don't know how many of my UK viewers are going to watch this. I'm not going to assume everybody knows everything about the American school system, but I do know in the UK, a public school is, what Americans would call a private school. But a public school in the States is a state funded by the local government. So I went to, a local government, public school, and I went to a private school before that. And at my public junior high and high school, which was of course funded by the local government in Lenawee County, Michigan, we were learning things about like sentence structure and everything, in the general, in the language arts classes there, that like I'm in 7th and 8th grade, and we're learning things that I learned in like 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. And so that is about how far behind a lot of districts are in the U.S. as far as the state-funded school systems go. So yeah, like please be kind to Americans. Most of us here still go to the government-funded schools, and it's not very good. And honestly, the only way you'd know how not very good it is if you'd previously been to a private school like I did. And like I said, I learned all of that already. So yeah, like that's about where my grades started falling behind, was after going from a private school to a public school. Some people would say, oh well, wouldn't you excel then? I'm like, not when you're bored as shit. Not when you're bored as shit and you're frustrated by the fact that you've learned this already. And I mean, yeah, it's a different school, but like it should be evidence that I've learned this already. So yeah, like that's what, and I'm not the only person I know who went through a similar thing. I've got another friend who is also a part-time wheelchair user, speaking of wheelchair users from earlier. Whereas I think my friend Maureen is full-time chair user, at least outside the home. Marie is part-time outside the home. I've seen her both in and out of a wheelchair outside her home. When she met up with all of us at Convergence, she was not in a wheelchair most of the time. Like at the nightclub venue for the shows, she was not in her wheelchair. But I think at the hotel, just because it's a much larger venue, she just figured the chair was easier. But yeah, at the nightclub, she's just like, it's small. There's lots of places to sit. If I need to, I can, walk like, between like 4 and 12 feet to get from point A to point B. I've got my cane if I need to, go extra far to the lavatory. So, but yeah, like the U.S. public school system is not very good. But yeah, she went to private school for the elementary years. So I think that was kindergarten through 6th grade, and then 7th and 8th grade, much like me, or maybe it was high school for her. She switched to public school for whatever reasons with her parents had to switch her schools, and she was so bored. She was so bored in class. She's like, I've learned this already. This is what we learned in like, third, fourth, fifth grade. This is how far behind you people are here. And yeah, so yeah, that's but yeah, the event venue on Friday. I've spent enough time. In theory, I have until realistically about an hour. They say I have until the time of departure, but I'm like, just for my own peace of mind, let's just say an hour before time of departure to get refunded. And they'll only refund me 75% of my ticket, which means I would be out $7. And I'd get something like $20.25 back. No, $20.75. I remember saying, because yeah, it was 27 for both ways total. And yeah, like the bus would have been about $10 more, and it taken me about an hour longer to get there. So I'm thinking I'm just gonna go because it's been I haven't gone out to a concert since April for Convergence, and I used to go like every month, maybe every other month. I also used to go out to the nightclub like almost every week until Isaac moved in, and it's not so much that he wanted me to stay because he knew I liked to go out and do things, that I'm a lot more extroverted than a lot of my friends are. But it's like, if he came home while I was out because he was working a lot, that's the main reason, is because he would always be working on Monday nights, and then he'd get back like midnight to half past, which is too late to take a bus out around here. So like he wouldn't get back until, half past midnight, maybe even later. So that's like, even if he did have a car of his own, that would be too late, to really go out. Like, first he have to change his clothes. Knowing Isaac, he'd probably want to shower, like the grocery store stench off of himself. Not like the grocery store stinks, but, he was just like, oh, I've got to get the vibe of Kroger off of me. And I'd be like, you do that, hun. But yeah, like knowing Isaac, he'd want to shower. So let's add on 20 minutes. And he's already getting back at like half past midnight. So it's like almost 1 before we're even ready to go out. And then it's about a good 20-minute drive from here to the nightclub, and that's not counting finding a parking space. So we're looking at like 1:30, and that's assuming he had a car. He has a driver's license, doesn't have a car. But then what happens? So it's like I feel bad. Like I think part of it is because I'm fairly extroverted, that it's like if I know that somebody I care about is going to like not just somebody that I really am in love with and care about, but somebody that I'm in love with, that I care about, and that I am in a position to keep company with. And I know he said he didn't care, and at this point I genuinely believe that, but at the same time it's like I would still feel bad going out knowing that all he did was work. And he'd probably have some kind of stressor at work because the job did stress him out just enough that, it would be reasonable that he'd want to vent. And he often did vent to me. And I'm like, if I go out, I'm not coming back until at least 2:30, almost 3 sometimes. Unless my back wrenches on me like it did the last time I went to the club, which was not this Monday, but the previous Monday I went out. Just because it had been forever since I'd been out, but unfortunately I didn't stay very long because I kept my backpack on for some reason when I hit the dance floor, and I don't usually do that. First off, there's a lot of reasons I don't usually do that. A lot of them have to do with, one, the goth scene in especially the Ann Arbor Ypsilanti area is very small. It's very small. Two, even with it being very small, not a lot of people go to Necto because, I'm just going to be frank. I love Jeremy, but his taste in music really sucks. He really loves, like a lot of the more aggressive, industrial, what they call hard EBM, like Front 242, or Jeremy's taste is more like everybody who listens to Front 242, and everybody who listens to KMFDM. Like I I am so grateful when he'll finally get back around. And he's my age too. He's about my age. So like when he's actually playing Front 242 or KMFDM, which I'm not usually all that into. I'm usually not. It's usually not my thing. I'm more like old school gothic rock, death rock, you know, what they're collectively calling post-punk now. I have a rant about how post-punk isn't actually a thing. It's just kind of a catch-all for, music that came, that fits like at least 2 of 3 categories. One, it came after the, classic punk rock era, which would be 1977-ish to 1981. So if it came after, the classic punk era of about 4 years, especially if it came out of the UK, it's probably more post-punk than punk. So it has to come, it has to be made predominantly after 1981. You'll see, I've seen people call Bauhaus post-punk, and I'm like, Bauhaus is classic gothic rock. Like Bauhaus, like before they called it gothic rock, Bauhaus was gothic rock. Before they called it Joy Division was one of the first bands, to be to refer to their then upcoming album. I think it was Closer, as gothic rock. So it's like, but I'll see people call Joy Division, oh, well, that's not gothic rock, that's post-punk. I'm like, no, you ask Joy Division, Closer, if you ask the surviving members of Joy Division, Closer was a gothic rock album. That's what they called it. So that's what even makes it even more meaningless. So like post-punk is not actually a thing. It's just kind of a catch-all term for music made after 1981, preferably from England. Usually on the on the more melodic side of early gothic rock, so like Bolshoi. I could see Joy Division, being called more melodic. So like Bolshoi, Joy Division, and Echo and the Bunnymen. So it's got to be, and it has to have, it has to have kind of a punk. It has to have kind of a punk ethic to it. Like even if it is like so far from punk rock as a subgenre, there's still kind of like this oral aesthetic to it that it's kind of hard to pinpoint, but it's got to have a very clear like I said, it's got to have kind of a punk ethic to it. Usually this means like with the case of the Bolshoi, some Echo in the Bunnymen, though not always. I can see Echo in the Bunnymen. I can Bolshoi definitely. Like there's a social consciousness to a lot of stuff by a lot of early stuff from The Cure. Was made with this social consciousness. Either it's either philosophical or political. The Bolshoi did a lot of both. Echo and the Bunnymen was socially conscious, as in it was very philosophical. Same with The Cure. So yeah, like it's this kind of a catch-all dumping ground kind of term for what's 90s goths, which I was in high school. I mean, you could say I was a teenage 90s goth. I'm about the same age, maybe give or take a year, from Angela Bennett, who's much more popular YouTuber than I am. I don't know if you watch her videos, but I'm about the same age as her. Like I said, maybe give or take a year. I'm not 100% sure how old she is exactly, but it's like, we didn't call this post-punk. First off, like, nobody called it post-punk in the 80s. That is an entirely modern term. The closest is, I can't remember if it was Mick Mercer or somebody with the NME. They called it positive punk, as in positively punk, as in, more punk than punk in a sort of way. That's what positive punk, that's what they called Southern Death Cult. I want to say Bolshoi got tacked with that, just because they were fairly political. Echo and the Bunnymen, early stuff, I want to say that was sometimes called positive punk. Rubella Ballet was definitely called positive punk. I mean, it's hard not to be like their mother, like their literal mother was, like an anarcho-socialist, vice versa. I love her. I love Poison Girls. I love Poison Girls, and like I said, like their literal mother. Two of them original members, Gem, Gem, and oh shit, I forget his name. Their literal mother was was an anarchist and punk rocker, and she started Poison Girls in her late 40s. And you could argue that she was far more into the anarchist politics than they were. But yeah, Rubella Ballet were definitely called positive punk, for being positively punk in music, not just music and style, but also in the raw, unadulterated ethics. Like positive punk, positively punk. That was an 80s term used largely in the UK. In the US, it was just generally called new wave. If it wasn't punk, it was new wave. If it wasn't punk, it was new wave. And there's a Reddit thread where I'm going on about this with somebody. And like I said, like if it was in the US, if it wasn't punk, it was new wave. And if it wasn't new wave, it was punk. And if it was neither, it was pop. It was pop music. So post-punk, that was not a thing on either side of the Atlantic. I don't think I saw the term post-punk until the early noughts. So like the very early turn of the 21st century. But it really didn't start taking off until about like 3 to 5 years ago. And now, like, suddenly everything that I grew up calling Gothic rock. In Germany, we now use new wave for early Gothic. I thought, what's the rest of that say? I can't see the rest. Okay. Or maybe that's just an ellipsis because you're going on more sentences on the other ones. I know, so like a lot of things that I grew up calling, and when I say grew up, like in high school, junior high, I called it Gothic rock, like, like The Cure and Bolshoi, Joy Division. I've seen people call Sisters of Mercy post-punk. I'm like, no, Sisters of Mercy, it's like classic Gothic rock. That's like Gothic rock that, before it was called Gothic rock. Like, this is like, like, it is so far Gothic rock that bands that sound like Sisters of Mercy, Andrew Eldritch wants nothing to do with. It's like, like they are like, so yeah, like, but yeah, like in the 90s, like everything that we called Gothic rock in the 90s is represented on Mick Mercer's Gothic rock compilations. It's a 3-part compilation, 2 CDs each volume. I don't know if it's still in print as discs, because at least in the States, it was released by Cleopatra, and I know they lost a lot of rights to a lot of stuff. There's been a lot of various little dramas. This did not end up completely straightened on this side, but whatever. It's close enough. I don't mind. As long as I don't mind, that's what matters. My jacket. But yeah, like a lot of what we called Gothic rock in the 90s is represented on the Mick Mercer compilations. And then there's some stuff that he couldn't get the rights to for the compilations. In the UK, it was Jungle Records, and I watched their YouTube. They've got a YouTube on Jungle Records that's got some old music videos for Specimen. I mentioned them earlier as being kind of a glam rock band that, were looking dead. That's a fairly accurate description of Specimen. And I've had conversations with people about that, and like when I'm telling them about this and like explaining it, and they're like, holy shit, you're right. They do sound like so much more like, like The Sweet or the Who from the late 60s than, oh, shit. Oh, The Beauty of Poison. That's one that sounds so much like it could have been an outtake from Who's Next. That's the one of theirs that I really love, and like I said, it sounds like it could be an outtake from The Who. But yeah, I don't know if Ollie and everybody in the band who's still around. I think most of them are still around. Specimen. I can't remember if any of them died. Ah, no, wait! Ah, pills are falling, but they're in the little pods that I made. So what was I saying? So yeah, Specimen. What was I? I was gonna say something about Specimen. I don't know. I do love them. I should, you know, I am. Where did my needle go? I put a needle right here. I'm surprised I can see these things. The reason I use a darning needle when I'm sewing on denim is because they're so much heavier. And as I said in the video that I made last week, was it? When I got a big grab bag full of patches in the mail. I like the heavier canvas when I'm sewing the patches onto denim. Because I like using a heavier thread when I'm sewing patches onto denim. And so, like, when you're using a heavier thread, like this was sold as purling cotton in the knitting and embroidery section. And this one, which, if I wanted it to clash that much, and obviously I have nothing against, like, contrasting colors with some of the, with my jacket. I've got a bright yellow one on the purple one. This one is a heavier thread. This is sold as crochet thread. Yeah, speaking of music, I think I'm going to put one of my records on, but because of working from my phone, I'm just going to, how do I do this? Okay, I'm going to unplug there because I don't trust everything not to fall over. Like, I don't trust myself not to knock over the cord because my phone can't keep charged with shit when the camera's on. Does this give me a no? That just like the other way. Okay. Oh, this is. Let me try turning this around real quick. So I often go trash diving, dumpster diving. A little over a month ago, a few days before my friend Raven's wedding, I found a folding chair, which I brought to the wedding because it was in a park, and they were only bringing just so many chairs, so they were recommending people bring their own. So I found this full-length mirror. This one's a little shorter than me, but this one here, this is my pride and joy. This is my I love this full-length mirror. It's got some cracks on it, and then there's that big chunk taken out there, but I don't even know if I want to find a frame or just like find enough jobbies to like hold it up onto the wall. Oh, that's really heavy. I might just but yeah, I've got it here like this. So this is almost as tall as me. I want to say I've got like maybe 4 or 5 inches. So I don't know. I might find some way to secure to the wall a little bit more and just like get some silk flowers, like coming down here and like maybe up over here to, like cover the cracks and stuff. But I was so happy to find these in the same like curbside as I found my folding chair. I am 4 feet 11.5 inches tall. Let's see. I'm trying to remember that in centimeters. Let's see. It's about 2.5 centimeters to every inch. So, I can turn this around now. It's about 2.5 centimeters to every inch. So let's see, 59 inches. I can't remember. Let's see, 59 inches times 2.5. Let's see, that would be, let's see, I know 50 times 2, that would be 100. Then we've got 18 with the 9 times 2, so 118. Then there's the half, and 118. 118. Oh, that sounds about right. Yeah, like 1.49 meters. Yeah, okay. Yeah, 2 meters. That's a little over 6 feet. So yeah, 1.5 meters. That sounds about right. 1.49. So yeah, 149, 150 centimeters, something like that. Okay, I'm going to ask your input for music. I'm going to put, I'm thinking of putting one of my records on. What do I have that I'm in the mood for? Oh, I forgot I had that. Oh, I've got DeVoe. Actually, I've got all of DeVoe's records on vinyl. What's over here? This is T-Rex. Speaking of glam, oh, I love T-Rex. I can't believe I forgot about that when you were asking about glam rock earlier. Probably just because he's just so, like, somebody put it that David Bowie really wanted to make great albums, but Mark Bolan wanted to make great singles. And I was going on about, so I started with with David Bowie, and a lot of his music, especially in the 70s, was easily comparable to Roxy music. So that's probably just how I forgot that Mark Bolan did a very different, like, his music was a bit closer to how Sweet sounded. I don't want to listen to that one right now. Let's see, we've got Rip Rig and Panic. I don't know if you're familiar or not. They are, I see a lot of people describe Rip Rig and Panic as, you know, just like, as like this kind of like new wave in the same way that, like, if it's not punk, it's new wave. So the first album I want to say was 1980, maybe 81. But they were very much, their sound was very much based in jazz and experimental jazz. So, okay, what's the Doors doing up on this part? Okay, I've got, oh, I love that one. Okay, I've got Christian Death's Ashes. I'm not in the mood for the Iron Mask right now. What's this one? Ooh, not especially for Classics Nouveau. Oh wait, where's my, oh wait, oh, Eurythmics. Wait, what's this one? Oh, Gene Loves Jezebel! You like Gene Loves Jezebel? I think I'm in the mood for this one. Which means I have to pick up a speaker that kind of fell over earlier. What do I mean kind of? It totally fell over earlier. Oh, okay. That is the radio. Where's the thing? Where's my selection? Hello, new person. I am trying to. Where did it go? Balance, volume. Why is it on right now? That's the radio. Where did it go? Oh, Gene Loves Jezebel? Oh, the other person on. Sorry for taking so long to find the selection button on my stereo. I have had this so I've had this stereo. We've got a speaker there and then one there behind the television. I've had this since my hello. Please stop showing off my lovely mess. I've had the stereo since my sister got married and moved to England in 1987. Where did my little easel go? That's not quite loud enough for me. I had a little easel that I put my phone upon. I'm sorry, I have no idea what I'm doing right now. Okay, that's... No. Okay. Oh, right. I think I brought it this way. Did I? Okay, I turned on the lamp. And the mirror, then the... Ah! Oh, right there. Yes, they do. So, okay, there's the thread and the needle. So, there's the first patch I finished sewing on, and I'm going to go to the Christian Death next. I should see the shop on Etsy where I got these patches. I just decided, you know, I'll take a chance and order the big grab bag because it was $15, which I think works out, at least with the current exchange rate, maybe about 12 or 13 euro. I was looking to buy a Trottoir de Mort album off of Bandcamp last night, but the... So it was listed at 9 euro, but the exchange rate made that about $10.40, which, I don't know, I feel like I'm splitting hairs sometimes with like what I justify the expense of and what I don't, but the exchange rate, I was thinking to myself last night, okay, if the exchange rate brought it to $9 or less, I could kind of, sort of, you know, like put something else on the back burner to, you know, with paying. But if it's going to be even a little bit over $10, I'll think about it. And if it's still there after I get paid either from a grocery rebate, which I use with... I have an app on my phone that gives grocery rebates when I go, when I go food shopping, or if I get paid for an order of buttons or jewelry, which I've got. Now I've got links on descriptions of my other videos or it should be on my info page. It's on Artfire. I've got a bunch of buttons on there. I should probably pitch that more, but do I have any sitting in front of me? I do not, and I don't feel like showing myself at unflattering angles just right now. But so there's those little badges. I want to say, not the enamel like this, but they're about this size, and it's just like the Actually, no, wait, there is one. No, there isn't. If there was, a cat knocked it over, and it is in the abyss under the coffee table. There's a lot of picking up in the front room that I really should do, but I've got, I don't know, either I'm busy doing something else, or I'm dealing with pain, and so it goes onto the back burner until I'm not busy and don't have pain. I hope that makes sense, and I hope that doesn't make me seem like a horrible housekeeper. I'm sure you saw more of the mess in this place than I would normally be comfortable with, but especially showing off to any Hara of across the ocean. I'm very easily embarrassed by the state of my place, even though I know most of my friends are a bit forgiving since they know I live with chronic pain. You know, most of my friends are just like, no, you're fine, you know, you've got pain, you're in pain all the time, don't worry about it. I've definitely seen worse. But at the same time, though, it's like, I feel like I should have it more picked up in here than it is. But, again, it's like, I've got pain I deal with. I've got 3 cats who conspire against me having nice things. And when I say conspiring against me having nice things, one of them was knocking bottles onto the floor in the kitchen earlier in this video, obviously, Murnau. I named Murnau after the silent film director. And I've got, like, one of the saddest stories about F.W. Murnau. So, yeah, I don't know if you're familiar, if either of you are familiar with him, but he directed the original 1922 Nosferatu. He also did a version of Faust, which I know is an old German. I know that's an old German story. I don't remember if anybody wrote it first. Oh wait, can you place the link where I can buy? Can I do that? Live chat, all messages. This is only giving me. I'm only seeing options on. I can on Instagram, the spooky house design, so spooky and then house as in the English spelling, and then design, and that's all one word. You can find it through there, the spooky house design Instagram. If not, I can definitely send you the link over the Instagram chat, and I can definitely put I definitely put all the links after I've got videos uploaded. So after this archives onto my YouTube, I can add it there too. But yeah, I'm using the camera on my phone, so I can't really do a whole lot with it right now. But yeah, the Friedrich Wilhelm Murnau, let's see, Faust, that's another one that he's fairly famous for, at least in the States. A lot of film critics love his film version of Faust. And I know that's been, like, you know, filmed and refilmed so many times, but he did this beautiful silent film version that has my favorite, I believe the devil in that one is Mephisto, or Mephistopheles. I can't remember what it is, but yeah, that he's got to be, like, I can't remember the actor's name, but in that version of Faust, he's just my favorite interpretation of that kind of, you know, demon, you know, entity. And I've seen, like, you know, Faust plays and, you know, other Faust films. But yeah, he's the devil in that one is definitely my favorite in all the Faust ones. He also did, let's see, I've got a few of his out from the library just because I don't have to buy it if it's at the library. The Haunted Castle, oh shit, I forget the English title of that, and I can't pronounce the German, but I recognize the German when I'm looking at it. The Haunted Castle is one he did. He also did Sunrise, A Song of Two Humans, which was made 1931, I believe. He also did this, like, you know, quasi-documentary kind of story film. If you've ever seen Nanook of the North, that's not him. That was Robert Flattery, who's Irish. But Murnau, it was kind of that style of documentary where it's like, you know, they're telling a story under the guise of documentary, you know. So it's like one of those, I guess they call it mockumentary now in English. So yeah, they're telling a story under the guise of documentary style storytelling. And that was called Taboo. That was shot Tabu. I believe that was shot. There was actually somebody else working with him on that who's a little more famous. Like, he's usually the name I see attached to it, but Murnau was involved in it as well, which kind of angers me sometimes because, you know, I think Murnau was the better filmmaker of those two. And I can't remember the other guy's name now, but, you know, if he stood out as much as Murnau did, you know, I would remember him. If his other work stood out as much as Murnau's, it would have stuck with me. But then what happened? So yeah, F.W. Murnau, he relocated, I want to say 1928, 29 to the United States. So if you know your World War II history, that is just about the time things were starting to get really ugly. And Murnau was more or less, at least with other filmmakers and other people he worked with, like everybody knew he was gay. Everybody knew Murnau. Everybody who knew Murnau knew he was gay, even though the film press at the time, and so like the film and theater press, are many how are living. Oh no, I don't know anybody else into the stories or all of that around here. My ex was kind of interested in reading The Race of Will and Pleasure, based because there was a Neil Gaiman quote on the cover of that one, and he really loves Neil Gaiman, but he broke my heart and left, so I'm not loaning him my books now. But yeah, I don't know anybody else around here as enamored by Reithu. I don't even think I know anybody who's read them locally. Let's see, a friend of mine from Oklahoma, or at least he was originally from Oklahoma when we started talking online. He lives in Portland now. I believe he's read them, but he wasn't nearly as impressed as I was, so I wouldn't exactly count him. I've got another friend who really loves Storm Constantine, but she likes her he likes her what's that other series, the Mebignon stories, Broke Your Heart. Oh yeah, Isaac is a mess and a half. I really hope he gets his head together. He's got a lot more issues than he's really willing to acknowledge, honestly, but it's I want to say about 6 months into whatever he and I were doing with our relationship, I knew it wasn't going to last very long, but I was like, we can still be friends, if like I said, about 6 months in, I knew it wasn't going to be like a forever, it wasn't going to be like Chesnari or anything, but I knew, we could have still been friends, but, he just went into this, he got really enamored by certain odious politics, and I cannot have that kind of negativity in my life. Unfortunately, he manipulated my friend Willow into signing a lease with her, because my apartment is not very big. It wasn't not at all big enough for he and I together in here. I kind of put up with it, even though I always felt cramped. Even when he wasn't here, just because his stuff was here. And this place is just barely big enough for me and my stuff and 3 cats. I could probably manage a 4th cat if maybe an older cat, like Nigel and Phoebe's age. Definitely not another kitten for now. At least not until Murnau, my cat, is well past his kitten insanity. Most cats I know are, still kind of kittenish as far as like how playful they are until they're about 2.5 or so. Nigel certainly was. Nigel certainly was until he was about 2 or 3. Right, Nigel, bud? There's Nigel. Nigel, come here. Want to say hello to my friends? No? Okay. Nigel doesn't like to be picked up. I think a lot of it is because he is, pardon my mess, but, Nigel, he's getting it out where there's no light. Nigel weighs, let's see, I'm just going to take a stab at the, because I know it's like 2.2 pounds per kilogram, so Nigel weighs about 8 kilograms. And Phoebe weighs about 4 kilograms. So Nigel is a much bigger cat, it's not that he doesn't have pudge. He's a very lean cat. He's very leanly built. He's just enormous. A friend of mine was over for the holiday dinner last year, and we're just watching movies. I think we were watching Lost Boys, and we're eating dinner. I cooked quail and a vegetarian loaf because I couldn't remember if she was vegetarian or not. And I still don't know if she is, because I know sometimes I just feel in the mood for like a vegetarian loaf that I'll get at the grocery store, because like they're really good. I like the field roast one. It's got a lot of mushrooms and it's got mushrooms. It's got pine nuts. It's got walnut, I believe. I've got another friend who's allergic to pretty much all tree nuts, so she couldn't have that. Thankfully, she lives in France right now. But yeah, Nigel's a very big cat, so I think that's why he doesn't like me picking him up very much, because he's so big. It's hard for him to be comfortable in my tiny hands. But yeah, my friend Tabitha, she was over for the solstice dinner that I was having, and she's so we're eating and we're watching a movie. And, she notices Nigel is staring at her because he likes to stare at my friends. Assuming he can be in the same room with them. He's so shy around new people, but if they hang out long enough, he'll come out of my bedroom area. I don't have a proper bedroom, like it's not separated with doors. There's just kind of that little mini wall behind my stereo and television that but there's no doors. Like, there's a couple doorways on either side, but it doesn't have a proper door. But, so, like, Nigel will come out from my bedroom area if some of my friends are around long enough, and he'll just stare at them until, either until they get up from the couch or until they leave, depending on how comfortable he feels watching them. So she looks at Nigel because she notices he's staring at her. And then, then she looks at me, and then she looks at Phoebe, because Phoebe was in my velvet chair. And she looks at Phoebe, and she looks back at Nigel, and then back at Phoebe, and then back at Nigel. And she stares at Nigel for about a good, 15 seconds. It was a good, healthy stare. And then she turns back to me, and no. She doesn't talk. She didn't say that to me. She looks, dead at Nigel after staring at him for a good, extended pause. And she says to him, "Why are you a mountain lion?" Because he is so big. He's such a big boy. But I wish he would let me pick him up, because he's just such a sweet cat. And I wish he wasn't so shy around people he doesn't know. I wish he wasn't so shy around people he doesn't know, because he's such a sweet cat. And he is. He's so sweet, and he's just so gentle, and he's really playful with other cats who are very playful. But he can get very, he's very playful with Murnau, and he gets very cuddly with Phoebe, and it's just so sweet. He'll kind of adjust to what the other cats need. He's just such a sweet boy. He saved my life. I know Halloween is largely an Irish American thing, that there are Halloween traditions in Ireland, but it's very different from how it is in we've got a third person. Hello. How many cats do you have? I have 3 cats. I have Nigel. He's about 16 pounds or about 8 kilograms. I've got Phoebe, and Nigel is just so big because he's just he's very big. Whereas Phoebe is about half the size by, not completely by, she's a little shorter by length and height from rump to shoulder. But yeah, she weighs about half what he does. So he's about a good 16 pounds. She's about a good 8.5, maybe 9 pounds. Murnau is my third one. Nigel and Phoebe are both about 6 years old, and but they're not litter mates. They're not. That's just a coincidence. I adopted Phoebe after I took in Nigel. Nigel kind of invited himself in off the porch when I was living with another ex of mine, about a good hour and a half drive from here, roughly. But Murnau is about 18 months old, and so he's still very much a kitten. It's possible he's going to get bigger than he is, but he's about Phoebe's size. He's about Phoebe's size, and all three of them are black. But Phoebe, like I said, Phoebe and Nigel, they're easy to tell apart, even though they're both short-haired black cats, because Nigel is so much bigger than Phoebe. Murnau is he's not as densely fluffy. Like, he doesn't look like a powder puff like my cat before him, Mr. Midnight, did. Mr. Midnight was about 8 years old when he died last year, so March of 2017. He died of kidney failure. And I have some pictures of him up on Instagram. Like, basically, if you like scroll past my Instagram far enough, about like 15 months worth, you will see this like massively fluffy cat who looks like a powder puff, and that is Mr. Midnight. Murnau is long-haired as well, but his fur is very silky. But his tail is like a squirrel tail. You know, it's long and it's silky, but it's got these little like extra long bits, you know, coming out like much longer than the rest of the tail. Like you see the hair coming out like you know, like say like here's the bone of his tail, and like most of the hair comes out here like this, you know, just like an approximation. But then like you know, like maybe about like you know, like a little less densely is hair that comes out like this. So he's got like these like long squirrely tufts coming up out of his tail, and it's so gorgeous. He's got this beautiful tail. But yeah, he's I've got a few friends who think he's going to get bigger than he is, but I don't think so. I don't think so. He's about 18 months old. Some cats aren't full grown until they're almost 2 years old. Just because sometimes they'll just get a little bit broader, shoulder to shoulder. Occasionally they'll get a little bit taller and longer, but I usually just like, you know, between 18 and 24 months is when I see cats like kind of like getting broader. I had a cat like who did that. I adopted her when she was about 16 to 18 months old, and her name was Vermin. But yeah, I adopted her when she was, you know, like an older, you know, kitten, very young adult, like, you know, Murnau is now. I adopted Murnau when he was about 6 months old, because Mr. Midnight, like, his age was just kind of guessed by the people I adopted him from, because he was found clearly very lost and very unaware of how to take care of himself out on the streets. And but yeah, he was so like they kind of guessed at his age. If he was well taken care of, he could have been as old as 10 maybe. If he was not so well taken care of, like that they kind of lowballed his age, I think, in their estimate. Because when I adopted him, they had him guessed at about 5 years old. So that meant he would have died at 6 or almost 6 years old. But the vet who I was taking him to when his kidneys started failing, she said, you know, that you know, like if he was found as a stray, already an adult, like less than a year, they found, yeah, maybe about a good 6 months before I adopted him, that he was found as a stray. And she says, you know, like guessing a cat's age by the condition of their teeth is not an exact science, especially if he genuinely was abandoned, like was suspected. You know, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Like, you know, he could have been taken really good care of by, you know, by somebody who died suddenly. And then, like, you know, their survivors just decided to, like, let him loose. You know, so he could have been as old as 10 and very well taken care of, or, you know, he could have been as young as 6, which, you know, it's not common for, oh, okay. But I don't exactly speak German. I can recognize some of it when it's spoken. I can't read it for anything. Mainly because a lot of English is still like grammatically it's practically identical to German, except English doesn't have noun gender or gendered nouns. So we only have one definite article. I also can't remember if German has an indefinite article, but I know Gaelic does not have an indefinite article. But yeah. So yeah, Murnau he's got this very fluffy tail, and he's a menace with this tail lately. Like, I'll wake up and, he'll, be on the pillow next to me, and then suddenly, like, his tail, like, flips up into me. Oh, it is Bavarian. The dialect there. We used to chat a little bit more. We haven't been lately. I used to chat a little bit more with Tilda Beinhaus. They're from Bavaria, or at least they're living in Bavaria. I don't know if they originally were, but I've noticed with German musicians, all of my favorites are originally Bavarian. Well, except Nico. Nico's originally from Cologne, and that is on my list of things I absolutely have to do. I have to go visit Nico's forest grave before I end up in my own. Well, actually, I want to be cremated, but I don't know if my friends want to buy me a headstone, like memorial headstone somewhere. I'm not going to oppose that. But yeah. Let's see. Claudia Brücken, she's Bavarian. I know that. Klaus Nomi was Bavarian, and I love his work. So yeah, two of my three favorite German musicians, or at least originally German, because Claudia Brücken, she's been based out of England since, I want to say, the mid-'80s, since she left Propaganda. I was watching some of the interview videos with Cherry Red Records and her, and I'm still not exactly clear what... she seemed a little bit vague on... Propaganda breaking up. I know she got back with a couple of the members touring with Propaganda songs. I really love them. Unfortunately, my record of their music is behind this chair, and I could get to it, but it would involve moving things, and I don't want to move things right now. I should probably not have that behind that chair then, since I realize that's got a lot of records. The last time I went to, I had a DJ gig with vinyl, and so like all of my, so many of my favorites are in there. Oh yeah, that's where all of my Susie is. It's in there. Shit. But yeah, I've got a Secret Wish on vinyl in there. I've also got let's see. Two of Claudia Brücken's solo albums on vinyl in there, too. At least they should be in there. Klaus Nomi. I love Klaus Nomi. He is just... I have this idea. I've had this idea for quite some time of making the little garden gnomes, which I think started as a Bavarian thing, just like this little kitschy thing. I don't remember if it did or not, or if it was just like something that somebody just created and called Bavarian. But yeah, I've been planning for a while to make like little Klaus Nomi statues in like the garden gnome kind of style and size, and call them garden gnomies, Nomi, or Gnomi, yeah, to go with the pun there with the gnome, and give a significant portion of the profit to AIDS hospice, because there's a lot of money going into AIDS research, AIDS and HIV research. There's a lot of money going into the medical research. And a lot of the hospice care facilities are really underfunded, and that's the end of that thread. I'll put it there, maybe? No. I'll put it there. There's wait, where did the scissors go? I'll find the big scissors later. I've got a smaller pair here. Oh, wait, no, there they are. So yeah, my task, the reason that I have been putting that off with the Garden Gnomi little statue thing is I really need to think of the best way to. I was thinking I just want to cast them as a mold rather than cast them in a mold and then like make a mold and then like cast them in resin of some sort. And it's just a math. So like that way I don't have to sculpt one rather than like sculpt several. My issue there is I kind of know how to begin with doing that. I just don't know like what the best way to like make that first like the macaque or whatever they call it. I know it's a macaque when you're making a smaller version of a statue, you know, just to get a feel for what you're doing for making a larger statue. There's the maquette. Something looking vaguely French. So yeah, I'm not sure what I would cast that that first one out of. I don't know what I'd make that first one out of, and that's my thing. I know like when you're doing a cast of body parts, you just use the body. Oh wait, you mean Garden Goblin? It's called Gertzwig, and it's not a Bavarian thing. Okay, I know the the little characters. They look like human with a little pointed hat. Is that you call them that in Germany? Or at least it translates to Garden Goblin. In the U.S. and England, they're called gnomes. They call them garden gnomes. I think that's what you're talking about, like with the little, like, tall, pointed hat. Where's my other thing? You know what? I can probably find it on here, what I'm talking about. But yeah, if it's not Bavarian, then I'm thinking of something else. I know they have a shop in, okay, yes. Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. I don't like dealing with this one so much. Yeah, there's a little city. I want to say a good half hour north of Detroit, called Frankenmuth. That was settled by Bavarian immigrants, and sometime in the 1960s, maybe it was the 50s. They just basically redid a whole lot of buildings in downtown Frankenmuth. You know what? I this has to be seen to be believed. I'm going to deal with this here. So in Frankenmuth, Michigan. Shut up, thing. I don't need to download an. Okay, no, I don't want to search the Nook. I want to search Firefox. So in 1950s, the city of Frankenmuth, they redid the facade on a lot of the buildings in downtown. Of course, you're gonna close on me. Shut up. They redid a lot of them to look like that. An ex of mine called it. Oh my gosh, I did not touch that. This is why I don't like dealing with this one. One of my exes called it like gingerbread house style, with the architectural bones on the outside. So it's like a cream or beige, a light color with the darker bones, and then there's like some scalloping along the edge of the roof. Let me see if. Will you actually let me search something? But yeah, Frankenmuth. They're nicknamed Little Bavaria. I know they have a sister city tourism program kind of thing with a city in Bavaria. But yeah, so they just sell. There's a bunch of little shops there. They're the most famous store in. Oh yeah. The most famous store in Frankenmuth is called Bronner's Christmas Wonderland. All year round, it is just Christmas ornaments, and I want to say they say that the interior of the store is about a good like 4 or 5 acres. So, and I think it's bigger than that because my stepmother, she had a chicken farm that was half an acre, and the interior of the store, unless it's one of those things where like sometimes an interior can be designed where it feels bigger than it is. So unless it's something like that, I think it's actually bigger than 4 acres. Yeah, because I can see that store easily being much bigger than, let's see, my stepmother's farm was one of the best. Oh, yeah. Okay, this style of houses, like they redid a lot of the downtown in Frankenmuth to look like that in the 1950s and 60s. Pretty much just to, I think there were a few houses, because like I said, it was settled by Bavarian immigrants. So I think there were a few buildings already like that, but they just redid the whole downtown strip to look like that, just to boost tourism. And a friend of mine, when she was visiting from Toronto in Canada, we were telling my ex, he and I were dating at the time. He and I were telling her about Bronner's Christmas Wonderland and how it's about a good, 5 acres at least of just Christmas ornaments, and there's a whole. It's got to be a good acre alone inside the store that is just artificial trees. So it's just artificial pine and fir trees, and they have like there's a person there who just works with the artificial trees. So they've got like a good acre with like a display model of all the trees, and then somebody will like go into a storeroom and get you out like if you want a an artificial Douglas fir. I know that's a really popular one around here when people are getting artificial or natural Christmas trees. They'll do what so like they've got like at least 3 or 4 different. Am I kidding? 3 or 4? They've got many types, like many variations of the Douglas fir style, alone. Like I said, a good acre with just display models of, various artificial Christmas trees. And that's the full-size ones that are 5 feet or taller. Yeah, there's a good couple of bookcases about as tall as this chair, which is about as tall as me. The back of it is, like a couple cases, with just nutcrackers. So yeah, like, and there's a big emphasis on German style Christmas ornaments as well. But they'll also have like all sorts of things that from all over the world. They've got a lot of the blown glass style ones. But yeah, like we had to take her to Bronner's because I'd been telling her about this on I think it was LiveJournal, like the week before she came to visit, and she believed me because she'd been to visit me before, and like we'd been good enough friends for long enough at that time that she knew I wouldn't just make something up just to mess with her. But like there's still this pocket of disbelief in her head that there could be a store that enormous dedicated exclusively to Christmas ornaments. And yeah, like and they have you can find a map to that store online, and it will still like but yeah, like I've been into a lot of the other little shops in Frankenmuth, and most of it is just, it's kitschy stuff. They're not all exclusively focused um, on German cultural items anymore. Some are just kind of. I get the feeling that like there's a couple stores that I get the feeling they're trying to that are focused on candy, but it feels like just kind of like they designed it like the original film version of Doll's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the one with Gene Wilder. It looks like a confectionery shop from the beginning of that film, though the one where he's singing Candyman. I don't know if you've seen that, but it feels very generic, kind of, not especially German or anything, and it's just like old-fashioned candies, like the various little like candy sticks that are of various flavors. There's a place that just does fudge, and that is all they do there. And they'll do the big fudge ribbons on the marble top. I haven't been to Frankenmuth in a while, and I love kitschy little tourist kind of things like that. I do. I love it. There's a little town. It's not even really a town. It barely qualifies as a village by population. About a good 20-minute drive from me, called Hell, Michigan. And I went there for my birthday. Just because I wanted to. I wanted to go there for my birthday. So my friend Charles drove Isaac and I, before Isaac turned on me. He drove Isaac and I up there. And, that alone, upon returning, we get, back home, and Isaac says, well, I hope you had a good birthday there. And I said, well, yeah, it was, Hell, Michigan. It's just this kitschy little tourist hole, and, you've got your miniature golf, you've got the ice cream shop, after, like a snow cone's chance in hell. One of the best Lurbucken. That's another one of my exes, the one I get along with. He's trying to send me photos, probably of very, very strange things. Scott and I get along fairly well. It was just, we both wanted different things out of life. I have some friends who are amazed that Scott and I are, both such good friends, this long after breaking up, especially considering that he and I broke up and got back together twice. So I want to say it was a total of about 5 years, but we've been friends, we were friends a good, I want to say year and a half before we started dating. And then we've been, friends since we broke up. I wouldn't say we started dating. I wouldn't necessarily say that, we're still good friends because we were friends first. Because the first time we broke up, that was very tumultuous time in my life, and he was a lot less understanding, but I got some of my head back together after that first time we broke up, and then we got back together. Let's see, I was in LA. Let's see, we got back together maybe a year and a half later, and it took a good 9 months for he and I to even start talking together after the first time we broke up. So it is definitely not because, we were friends first that we're still such good friends now. It's because the final time he and I broke up, we just, it was just a point where we both realized that we both wanted just two different things out of our lives. And at the same time, we, known and cared about and respected each other for so long, it just seems silly not to stay friends at that point. We'd been through so much together that, I do still care about him. It's just, that kind of relationship we are not, you know, we may have felt Chesnari at one point, but it was not meant to be. It was a shorter term in the grand scheme of life, I guess. Yeah, 5 out of the last 20. Oh God, I have known him almost 20 years, haven't I? Yeah, like I said, like off and on for a combined 5 years, maybe. So, so yeah, like at that point, it's like, we've been through so much together, seeing each other, like grow and learn so much about ourselves. It was just, it was just hard not to stay friends. So that's why we stayed friends. Like, if you can still respect who you broke up with, then, oh yeah, what was the first? Oh, I missed the previous part. You might have been saying something about the chocolate in the other part that I just missed. But yeah, I was kind of hopeful Isaac would have been longer term than he was, but like I said, probably definitely 6 months into whatever the hell, you'd call our relationship, he still insists that, we weren't, like steady dating, but, all of our friends, who knew us both, yeah, all of our friends who knew us both, many of whom are like the friends I met through him. Most of the friends I met through him are no longer friends with him because, Tabitha has especially said to me that, if he's going to still insist that he and I weren't, steady dating during that almost a year, he and I basically were, most of it, he was living here with me. She's like, either you and him were dating or he was using you. And I said, yeah, you're right. It was either, he had feelings that he wasn't completely comfortable acknowledging, which I can understand. He's only just turned 22. I'm about 15 years older than that. I feel like a dirty old horse sometimes, acknowledging that I'm so much older than he was. But at the same time, I'm okay as long as he's old enough to drink wherever I'm living at. Which in the state, like, if he's too young to take out to bars with me, I was like, no, you're too young to date. I'm not. Nope. Go home for a few years. Go home. Come back to me in a few years. But no, if yeah, I figure with all of my stuff I got to deal with, I've noticed not just socially and politically. Oh yeah, okay. We can still talk about chocolate and candy thingy, but Germans aren't doing so well. Yeah, I've had to explain to people about German chocolate cake. I've got a friend. I thought he and I were, getting close, even just as friends, because he's totally heterosexual, like appallingly so. But he's gorgeous. I know there's no such thing as, to an extent. I don't want to get in legal trouble anyway. That's definitely too young. But no, like as long as I can take him out and drink. I figure with all of the stuff I deal with, on various levels, I've noticed that, like socially, politically, all that, like sometimes even like just, in terms of empathy, I've noticed that there's at least a trend for younger people lately to be more sensitive to people who have, yeah, there's no too old, but I've noticed that there is, Scott, he's 8 years older. No, he's almost 9 years older than I am. That's right. So yeah, Scott's almost 9 years older than I am, and that was probably the most functional relationship I've had to date. But yeah, like I said, we both just wanted two different things out of life. So, but yeah, like I can see myself dating older again. Just like I've noticed that the older I get, the more I've noticed that there are people my age and even older who don't understand where I'm coming from, mentally, emotionally, all of that, and are either unwilling to learn or they think they can fix me somehow because they're older and wiser. And I'm like, I will. I'm not completely opposed to dating somebody, even 9 years older than me again, like, Scott is. But he's got to impress me, and he's got to know that, I've got my own life, and, and I have a vague plan. I definitely want to emigrate to Ireland before I'm 50. I don't know how I'm going to do that, living on disability income, especially in the US. And I know a lot of countries, they will not give out a visa, even if you otherwise qualify, if you are permanently disabled and living on assistance in your country of origin. Like, you can't even get, like, an 18-month visa. You can't even get a six-month visa to Canada if you're permanently disabled and living on assistance. Like, they won't even give you a 6-month visa even if you otherwise qualify for a visa. I know for the UK, I qualify for an ancestry visa, meaning that my grandparents were born there. Unfortunately, I would need my grandparents' birth certificates to prove that, as well as my mother's. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure my mother, like myself, was born in Toledo, Ohio. I don't think I need her hospital of birth, just her birth date, her parents' names, which I know, and a city of birth, and I should be able to acquire my mother's birth certificate. I do not know where in the UK my grandparents were born. At least definitely not on my mother's side. Well, I know my mother's mother was born in London, but I don't know the date. And honestly, like, how many women named Mary Victoria Penton, born in 1918, in London at the time? Like, how many, like, and where in London? Like, do they want the borough, or is it some kind of deal where they want the hospital? I know some states in the U.S., they won't give you a birth certificate unless you know the hospital of the birth as well. So yeah, like, it can be very hard for some people to get hold of even their own birth certificate. So yeah, like, I don't know what the deal would be getting at. Like I said, I don't know her birth date. I believe it was in May. I believe my grandmother on my mother's side was born in May. I can't be sure. She might have also been born in April, and we just often ended up celebrating in May because, like, maybe it was the first weekend or something. So yeah, I don't know my grandmother's birthday. I know she was born in London in either April or May of 1918, or maybe it was 1919. I know she was about a year older than my grandfather on that side, who was born in 1920. So she was either exactly a year or a little over a year, but close enough, whatever. I definitely do not know where my grandfather was born. I know it was a tiny village in Cornwall that was largely mining, but with dairy farming as well. I was just telling me the other chat when you said that there is no too old. I might also qualify for a UK ancestry visa from my father's side, which would be his father. His father was born in Belfast in, which is Northern Ireland, which I think would also qualify me for an Irish ancestry visa, as long as it needs the same requirements of just like a grandparent born there, because my father's father was born in Belfast, which is Northern Ireland, which politically speaking is the UK, but he was born, I think he was born like 1911, 1912, somewhere abouts there. Again, it's like, yeah, he's old enough. I would qualify for an ancestry visa to either the UK or Ireland, but I have no idea when this man was born, or even if it was like exactly in Belfast or the area of Belfast. And honestly, how many Sheridan McElroys were born between like 1910 and 1912 or 1913? How many? It's like, so yeah, like, I mean, say I get all of this paperwork together for, just say, a 2-year Irish ancestry visa. I don't know what all they want from people on disability, like, or even if they even give that to somebody on disability. But assuming I can get that together, I know my friend Ali, who I mentioned, is living in France now. Please show us how far you are with. Oh, I'm just about done with this patch. I'm just gonna knock this one off a bit, and so yeah, my friend Ali, she recently emigrated to France, and by recently I mean last year thereabouts. And then what happened? She herself is disabled with she's got a nerve condition. Mine is general chronic pain, mostly down my back. So this is the first patch I finished. This is going shoulder to shoulder across the back. I still need to get the patch that I want for the whole back panel here. But this is the one I just sewed on to the front, just a little bit under the lapel. There we go. Christian Death. And then this one irons on. So I'm not going to sew this one on today. Do I want to do this one next? Or I could do... I'll do this one next. The Sex Gang Children. So yeah, I'm going to... so let's see. My friend Ali, I know... at least France, they will allow people who are collecting disability assistance if they have a financial sponsor. And her mother was willing to sign off as a financial sponsor because her, I forget exactly what kind of stuff her mother is. Her mother is, I think, technically freelance, but she's a decently well-known political writer, if memory serves. So, her mother was able to sign as a financial sponsor. So it doesn't even have to be a financial sponsor in France, at least, giving a visa to a disabled person under that. But Ali and her her boyfriend, well, they were kind of sort of dating shortly after she moved, but they're married now. So yeah, like however many years in France, they'll allow her, like basically to apply for naturalized citizenship, on account of being married. But yeah, I know France will allow financial sponsors for the disabled for purposes of a visa, like a long-term visa. So like over, I think in France it's 3 months is the, well, that would be the whole EU, wouldn't it? For just like staying on a passport, because it's the same in Ireland. Yeah, 3 months on passport, and any longer than that, you'd have to apply for a visa. So I really want, for my birthday next year, so July 2019, I want to visit Dublin, and just for 2 weeks, just 2 weeks. So, like my friend Willow will come by and feed the cats once or twice a day. stop dealing with Isaac for a couple hours, whatever. I am totally okay if she just wants to, like, you know, live here for that 2 weeks just so she doesn't have to deal with Isaac and his unsavory political ideas he's been picking up lately. But so yeah, like next July 2019, I definitely want to visit Dublin for my birthday. I've got a short list of things I definitely want to do when I visit Dublin, which would be I want to visit my friend. I want to visit with my friend Gavin. I don't. Hopefully, he'll have the time. That would be nice. I mean, even if it's just something like meeting up for dinner, or whatever at a restaurant or a pub or something, that's fine. I just want to visit with him. Just, you know, we talk often enough when he's not too busy. It's been a while. I should talk to him some more. I'm starting to feel like at the beginning of this year, my friend Cinnamon died, and she died in January. And the last thing she and I said over the Facebook Messenger chat, I was looking at some antiques at a thrift shop, and I think I showed her. I sent her a couple pictures of. I think it was a sewing machine, but I didn't end up buying this. I did not end up buying the sewing machine because I didn't have the money at the time, but I needed to wait until I got paid, and then it left me because somebody else had more money. Yeah, like the last thing she and I said to each other was the previous November, before she died. And remember, she died in January at the beginning of this year, and in November, we closed that conversation where she said that we should talk more, as in she and I should talk more. And I said, absolutely, anytime. And anytime became no time, because, she died about 6-7 weeks later. It was, and so yeah, I should talk to Gavin some. Definitely, before I actually go to Dublin, because how else am I going to make plans, with him, even if it's just something for dinner. But yeah, I need to visit with Gavin. My friend Kali. It's so hard for me to not think of her old name. She legally changed her name from Phaedra to Kali, as in the Hindu goddess Kali. But yeah, her mother named her Phaedra, and that is just such a beautiful name. And it's such, a wonderful, unique name. You don't hear it very much. She actually, sent in the little membership request to join the Church of Satan, with her old name, Phaedra Robinson. That was her name, just Phaedra Robinson. And she got a letter back from them, and she even as they requested, she sent in a photocopy of her driving license, because they want you to join with your legal name, because they don't want people joining under the age of 18, and they want to make sure that you are who you say you are, and that you are old enough, so they want a copy of your photo ID, whether it's a driving license or just a government-issued ID card, like I have, because I don't, see well enough to drive. So she sent them, what they wanted. I think it was her passport. So yeah, she sent a photocopy of legal government-issued ID identification, and saying, legal name, which was at the time Phaedra Robinson, applying for membership in the Church of Satan. And about 8 weeks later, or something. Maybe it was a little longer because she lived in Australia at the time, but she lives in Wexford, Ireland now. I definitely have to visit with her. I'm not sure how far that is from Dublin, but it's a fairly small island, and my friend Thea, she lives out in the Sheffield area of England, and she says if I am able to make it to Ireland, whether for my birthday or just any time next year, that she'll make a day trip or maybe a weekend trip to come out and visit me, which would be nice. But yeah, so yeah, like I know like Ireland is a much smaller island than it's a much smaller island than Great Britain and the Irish Sea combined. So it shouldn't be hard to come take a train or a drive up from Wexford to come see me in Dublin or something to that effect. But yeah, so she got her cashier's check for $100 even, which it was at the time. I think they've upped it to $200 now. Just inflation. So yeah, she got her check back, and a letter saying that they only allow people to apply with their legal name. So basically, she got a letter back saying, "We do not believe this is your legal name." I forget what her middle name was, but yeah, like first and last name was Phaedra Robinson, and she was saying about like how she was like yelling, she called up that day to that she got her mail back and from them and said, "Mother, why did you have to name me this? Like, it's bad enough that the people at the goth clubs think that I'm making up my name, but like even with a photocopy of my passport, I the Church of Satan does not believe that my name is Phaedra Robinson," and I was entertained by that. But yeah, she's changed it to Kali Adams, I believe now. She writes under Kali Black though. So that's what she's got on Facebook as a. But yeah, she is a. So I've got to visit with her when I go out to Dublin next year. How I'm getting to Dublin is anybody's guess. I'm probably just going to end up at the beginning of the year begging my friends for money. Like put up a little GoFundMe kind of thing and asking, hey, anybody who wants to donate, this is all just going directly to my savings. I need about $900, to $1,000 for airfare. If I can make it happen on less, like if something on, some kind of website suddenly offers like a cheap flight to Dublin for like $500, all the better. But a friend recommended me that, but it's like one of those like deal a day kind of sites, only it's for airfare. And so I'd have to just like basically wait for an offer for cheap fare to Dublin to happen, which I may or may not be able to do depending on how much money I have saved up by the time that happens. So, but yeah, so I've got to get together. Let's see, average price I saw was about $900. So let's say $1,000 max I've got to get for airfare to and from Dublin. It's round trip, Detroit to Dublin. They've got a shuttle from Ann Arbor to the Detroit airport, so that's not going to be a big deal for me. That's another $14, I think, to get on their shuttle bus. I know from experience I can easily live for 2 weeks out of my grandmother's antique suitcases from the 1930s, so World War II era, or like early World War II era even. So let's see. I know I can easily live for 2 weeks out of my grandmother's suitcases, just like whatever I can pack there. So, I probably wouldn't even need to have baggage checked. Just like my backpack, which, is, for carrying around like, a laptop and my wallet and bits and then 2 suitcases. You know, the big one and the little one. I can easily do 2 weeks out of my grandmother's suitcases. They are heavy, but, you know, that's what you get with antique luggage. Because they are made of wood and covered in canvas, and you know, I guess they're pretty sturdy though. They're sturdy as hell. There's a little water damage on one of them, but you know, nothing that you know couldn't be cleaned and you know managed. So so let's see. There is a website. I believe it was around just before Airbnb. It's called couchsurfing.com, and a lot of backpackers and travelers use that. The idea is that, you know, you are, you know, using this site to make connections with people, like make new friends in, you know, whatever countries and cities and states you're visiting all over the world. They do not want you taking money, you know, or giving money for you know, staying at somebody's house, so it's all going to be like, you know, so it's all nominally for free. Obviously, if you're going to be staying a prolonged stay, like, you know, more than a weekend or something, you know, you can arrange whatever kind of like, you know, pitch in, oh, hey, I can like, you know, buy bread or, you know, order in some takeaway, you know, like a couple days while I'm visiting. And so yeah, I can probably stay with I probably find somebody to stay with via couchsurfing.com. And I do want to stay in Dublin. I don't want to, like, not just because, you know, it's not a thing that I don't want to impose on my friend. It's that I specifically want to see Dublin. I have never seen Dublin. The most I've seen of Belfast was a prison when I was living with my sister and my... Oh, wait. Oh, I need to go because it's really late here. Oh, okay. Okay, well, I can probably do another one sometime. Yeah, you take care. You both take care. And so, yeah, it's really late for you. Oh, that's right. You're a good 7 hours ahead, I believe, Germany. I know the UK and Ireland, that's 5 hours. And the time is now... Or my watch is right there in front of me. Oh, yeah, it's 9:15. So, yeah, we're looking... Okay, so, yeah, it's about 4 or 5 a.m. for you, right? Okay, well, you both take care, and I'm going to close this then and finish sewing this on. I think this is the jacket I'm going to wear to the event this weekend. So, all right, you take care, and definitely see you on Instagram, my friend, and hopefully your other friend as well. All right, take care, my Hara.